A dusty wind blows through this little town. Memories of desert storm, we're still feeling the ground. He came back home, but he's not really here. His eyes are lost in far away.
Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. Y'all know my co-host, Wade. Wade, how you doing today, buddy?
Absolutely fabulous, brother.
We have a special guest for our July 4th, even though it's July 2nd. This is our July 4th show. Todd Branda, how are you doing, buddy?
Great, gentlemen. Great. And glad to be here.
This is going to be awesome. Okay, so before we get started, me and Wade talked, and we're...
Wade and I.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. I knew I was going to say that.
Redneck already. Anyway.
Wade and I have talked, and we have decided that what we're going to do, we're going to once a month pick a cadet, an airman, sailor,
Seaman.
Space Force,
Seaman.
and I'm saying sailor, out of college, out of Indianapolis, and then wherever y'all's is.
And that's West Point.
Is it? No, it's also in other schools. I mean, I hate to say it, Huntsville, but we're going to pick a cadet once a month, and we're going to actually talk about them and give them some props for being in. We have Everett Chaplin, and I want to tell y'all about this young man. He is a really good guy. He even cuts hair in the barracks, as he told me. Says he does a better job than I do, and he hates the Navy. So I thought y'all would really appreciate that. But he's gonna be civil engineer major, class of 2028, and then he is also a former Army football player. And I mean, I got to give the young man some props. Great gentleman, and I mean, he's gonna go places. And I think he wants to become a ranger, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I had infantry on there. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's kind that's going to go places.
I wish him the best, except for the Army football game, in which we're going to talk about that another day. But anyway, I want to get into this. So Todd, I mean, we should say sir, because you ended up...
No, Mister.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be interested because of how you went into flying Apache helicopters. So talk about when you first went in.
So I joined like a lot of people did back in the mid 80s with delayed entry. So I was a senior in high school. It was December of 1985 when I joined the delayed entry program, with my whole goal being getting to Army flight school. Of course, my recruiter, I won't say anything bad about anybody, but he convinced me it'd be better if I joined the Army as an enlisted soldier, and my odds would be better to get into flight school at that point in time. Well, the only odds that were better was his numbers that he managed to make with me being one of those. However, looking back at it, it was probably the best thing I ever did. It was the best experience I got to give me the most once I made it to Army flight school. So delayed entry, 1985, December, 17 years old, had to have my parents sign my paperwork. So the funny thing is from December of 85, I waited until July of 1986 is when I entered basic training on July 14th, matter of fact, to be exact. So I'm coming up an anniversary here in a couple weeks for me on that. The entry process, like everybody else, MEP station in Detroit. So Army or MEP station was an experience. To go through that process of all the paperwork, and they actually messed up my paperwork. I had to go home for 2 days, go back and go through MEPS again to get it right. So I started second guessing my decisions in life at that point in time.
Oh, I would have. But, automatically, I would have.
I I actually told my recruiter, I said, hey, listen, I said, they sent me back. I got to go back on Monday. I said, I don't even know if I'll show up here. He called me, I bet, every hour on the hour until Monday rolled around. It was a Friday afternoon when they sent me back, and just to make sure I was going to show up to the bus station. So
That's
I
that's
thought,
crazy. Because if you think about the Army guys that recruiters were putting people into the Navy, Army recruiters, man, they were after it back in them days. They
oh
were
yeah,
really after it.
yep.
And so
But
when you decided to go in the 85, what did you join? What part? Or
so
MOS?
I joined Army. I joined the Army aviation side of the house. I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to fly helicopters, so I was going to do something with helicopters. And I was a heavy lift mechanic on CH-47 Chinook, which was my MOS at the time, a 67 uniform. And that was specific to the Chinook helicopter, the CH-47. Nowadays, I guess the MOS is just one aviation MOS now, and then they kind of have small branches for different type of aircraft. But so basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then after that, I would move on to Fort Eustis, Virginia, for my aviation training as a mechanic at that point in time. So the standard Army basic, 8 weeks, and then 19 weeks as in AIT, where I learned to be the mechanic on the Chinook at that point in time. But it was kind of all
AIT.
jumbled together. A lot of that stuff is, I look back in my memory bank, and it's like, did that happen in basic training or did that happen in AIT type kind of thing? So, but yeah,
that's
so
cool.
I got to experience the Army and open up my career at Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is a gorgeous place to spend 8 weeks and not see any part of New Jersey at all, other than the range.
Wait, have you were there, right?
Or Dix, no.
No, you should have been. I had to throw that in there. I mean, why would y'all name it that? See, the Navy at least has good names. I mean, I'm just saying.
It's spelled different.
Yeah, but I mean, the pronunciation, I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
But so when you're at Fort Dix, so what exactly did like when you working on the Chinook? Because I flew on a Chinook before because the Navy has them for cargo. And
Yeah, they got
what
the
was
46, the little brother. Yeah.
I guess that's a lot smaller than y'all's, right? Y'all's
Yeah,
is
it's a little smaller
more.
than the CH-47. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Damn, I didn't know they were
But-
smaller.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The Chinook carried the CH-47 carried more than the CH-46 of the Navy version of it. So.
Okay. No, see, I learn something every time I get on the podcast. Especially if Wade's going to tell me something. Hey, look, he's thinking about paying me back for that comment earlier. Now, so Wade, I know you had a question because you're going to say something a little bit ago. Did you have a question?
Oh no, I was just commenting that the CH-47 that's a popular chopper to jump out of as well.
I'm not picking up Wade's audio.
Okay, he's saying that's a popular one for people to jump out of, I guess, with airplanes.
Absolutely. That's so the funny thing was when I got out of AIT, my first duty assignment was with the 193rd Infantry Brigade in Panama at the canal, where we had an airborne battalion right across from our barracks, and a lot of our operations was dropping airborne troops at the Gatun drop zone at Gatun Locks down in Panama. So yeah, absolutely, a lot of airborne operations out of aircraft.
Okay, all right, and then how long was school? How long is mechanic school for y'all?
It's 19 weeks. So it was it took me after basic training. I was there for 19 weeks at Fort Eustis, Virginia, and that that time when I graduated from Fort Eustis, it was like the second week of January. So I went through Christmas break, the Christmas leave for trainees, got to go home for a week, and then I'm right down to Panama after that. And so it went pretty quick. Obviously, a lot of stuff in training does go quick, except for flight school. That was pretty miserable, but for different reasons. But it was pretty pretty enjoyable. It was a quick trip to Fort Eustis, learn everything I need to learn just so I can operate as a basic soldier in the field. And Canal was kind of a fun place to go.
So when exactly did you decide that you want to start to fly? Like, what got you into that next part of
Oh,
flying?
geez, I was probably about 10 years old.
Oh my
That
goodness.
goes a long ways back. Yes, yeah, a long ways back. And I got my earliest memory I've got is up in Superior, Wisconsin, where my dad grew up as a child. We went up there on vacation one summer, and I was young. And we went to the high school there, and Major Richard Bong, who was an ace from World War II, they had his P-38 Lightning up there on stilts out in front of that high school. And I remember that to this day, going out there and looking at that. And I think that's kind of what drove me to the flying and aviation side of the house. That one trip up there.
What year? What year did you decide?
That was, geez, probably 76,
Okay.
maybe sooner, maybe 70, 75, maybe between 75, 76 time frame.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now let's get
Yeah.
into when
So
you
it
started
was,
flying. Now I want to
yeah.
get
So
into
flight school, flight school at Fort Rucker, Alabama, where humidity is king. So probably the worst place to put a flight school. The Army found it for weather, but very, very intense. The first thing you do when you go to Army flight school, if you're in the warrant officer program, is you go to warrant officer candidate school, which is a 6-week course where you become a WOC, a walk warrant officer candidate. Not unlike OCS, it's all the officer training stuff you got to understand, you got to know. You're going from enlisted to officer, so you're going to learn all the different techniques and all the different skill sets of being an officer that you weren't used to as an enlisted guy. That 6 weeks is really you spent in the ditches doing push-ups with garden hoses and sand being thrown on you the whole time. So I don't know how I learned all these skills with what they did to us. The walk salad is a barracks inspection where the TAC officers take your wall lockers and they throw it all in the center of the building and mix everything up of everybody's stuff. It was just kind of a miserable experience of wall locker inspections. Coming back to the barracks, everything's trashed. Going out doing PT at 5 a.m. And doing it all over again for 6 weeks straight. Walking disciplinary tour because you could never get everything right. You're always going to be in trouble. There's no such thing as a pass, even though they mentioned it. It just, you never got one. So they really, walk school prior to flight school was designed to see who really wanted to be there. And if you can put up with it for 6 weeks, we'll start you in a flight program and see if you can do it there. Because when you get to the flight school portion of it, you're still a walk. You're not a warrant officer yet. You don't get pinned W1 until after you graduate flight school. And that was back when I went through. They've changed it since then. So if you can make that first 6 weeks, they give you the shot at flight school, and it starts all over again, the same type of tactics to try and get you to quit, make your life miserable as much as they can. But the difference is now you got academics to go to, serious academics, or, aircraft, aerodynamics, weather classes, all that aviation stuff, all that pilot classes that you got to go to. After that academics, you're split up into classes your platoon was. So the morning guys would go to academics in the morning and fly in the afternoon. The afternoon guys would fly in the morning and then go to academics in the afternoon. So they flip
Oh,
flop.
oh, that's crazy. Wow. And I
Yeah.
know Wade,
So
Wade was gonna ask you a question on that.
Yeah, so it's just like
Yeah,
going through
go ahead.
basic training all over again.
Yeah, I still don't have his audio for some reason.
Okay. He was like saying like basic training, starting all over again.
Oh,
Is pretty much
absolutely.
what
And it seemed like every step of the way through warrant officer candidate school, flight school, it was starting over at square one again. I hear guys talk about a lot of some advanced tier one guys. Let's talk about buds or special forces. They start all over at the bottom when they graduate the buds or whatever. Then they start over at the bottom again for the next step. So it's the same thing with flight school. Back then, and I went through flight school in 1989. I entered it, so I had about 3 years, roughly 3 years in the Army already before I went into flight school. I had guys in my class that were Navy guys that came over to the Army to fly, and I had high school to flight school guys that had zero experience in the Army. So that was tough on those guys because I kind of knew what it was like on the outside of training. I'd already been to a one duty assignment. It was fun. You learn a lot. It's actually a real job to do type kind of deal. So you didn't have all that training. And I can't imagine these poor guys that are going through flight school for a year and not seeing the end of it or not knowing what it's like until after that 1 year graduation. So I got to dip my toes kind of in the Army first before I went into flight school.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's kind of like, that's like I first heard the word that Wade ever said, like if he ever saw this person, he's going to call him a leg. I'm like, what the hell are you going to call him a leg for?
Yeah.
And then he tells me, and I'm just like, oh, well, if you think about it, it's no different than Wade going 82nd Airborne, somebody never gone airborne. It's
Yeah.
just it's a lot different. And then once you become an airborne, it's just like it's almost like a brotherhood. Them airborne guys are like
Absolutely.
brotherhoods.
Yep.
I
Yep.
hate to say that, but they are. They are. And then, so let's get into when you got over to Desert Storm.
Yeah. So when I got to Desert Storm, I was assigned to the 3rd Armored Division out of Hanau, Germany. So I got deployed to. I say deployed. My unit was in the Aviation Training Brigade at Fort Hood, Texas. And what that is they were fielding the Apache at this point in time. You can remember the Apache's only been out for 4 years at this point in time, 1985 to 1990, or 5 years. So it is relatively brand new, that aircraft. So they were fielding the Apache battalions in a hole at one time. They'd train up a whole battalion. They'd move it to Germany or wherever it was going, and they'd take that Cobra unit that it's replacing and bring it back to the States and reassign it to usually a National Guard unit. So I met my battalion in Germany. I just finished the Apache course as they finished the Aviation Training Brigade. They all have been together for a year, and I'm the brand new guy coming into the unit in Germany at that point in time. So it wasn't difficult for me to blend in or to mix in with the guys because I've had prior enlisted time. I understood the games. I understood what it was like to be the new guy on the block, and I knew what I had to do to earn the respect and to fit in that position. So August, let's go to August 1990 when I showed up to Germany on the 14th of August. Do we remember what happened in August 5th? Saddam invaded Kuwait on August 5th. So 10 days later, I show up to my unit and I'm telling my family and everybody, don't worry about it. I'm in a heavy armor division in Europe. I'm not going anywhere. I'm there to protect the Fulda Gap, keep the Russian horde out of Germany, out of West Germany. And it wasn't 2 months later, we were already notified we were going to the Gulf.
Oh, wow.
For Operation Desert Shield. So I was 3 months out of the Apache course. less than a year from flight school graduation, 6 months after flight school graduation, brand new W1, in Germany, training up to go down to the desert. So a lot of field exercises, a lot of blending in, a lot of getting used to the guys, a lot of getting used to tactics. There's a schoolhouse on how you fly the aircraft, and they teach you the technical way to do it. And then there's tactics, and then there's how the unit SOP works, and how you actually blend in with the other guys. And so there's two guys in the Apache, the front seater and the back seater, right? The back seater is the primary pilot, so he's normally the most experienced guy in the back seat. He's been in the unit for a while, or he's been in the Army for a while flying Apaches. He's got the most experience. And then the front seaters are normally the newer guys. So when I got to my unit, I became a front seater, and in the aircraft. And the front seater can fly the aircraft just like the back seater can. His primary job, though, however, is navigate and to operate the weapon systems. So you did primarily navigation and weapon system employment. So 30 millimeter cannon, Hydra 70 rockets, which are you do it with both of you, that one, and then missiles. The Hellfire missile in the A model that I flew was all laser guided. We didn't have any of this radar wave stuff that they got now going on. But so you had you had to see the target, put the laser on it, and drive that missile to it. So
I'm telling you right now, I would have loved to have been in the front seat. Wait, could you imagine the buttons I could have pushed?
All kinds of buttons.
All kinds of buttons. I've been like, what is that?
There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. So we did so training up for that. Think about it. You can't not know where the buttons are. So we would do blind cockpit drills. We had this little trainer, and you put your head down in what we call the orbit, which is how you look through the day view optics. So there's 3 different optics on it. You got like a telescope day view, you got day TV, and then you got FLIR, forward looking infrared. You can select whichever one you want to look through. And in this trainer, we put your head down in there, and it would give you instructions. And you leave your head in there so you can't see the switches. It'd tell you which switch to put in what position. And that's how you practice. Wow. And it would tell you if you got it right or wrong. So you're blind, we call it a blind cockpit drill. So your head's down, and you're operating switches with both hands on both panels, and then on the actual the ORT horns where they got where you steer the missile or steer the laser, so the missile is guided to it. So you spent a lot of time there. You spent a lot of time there. So
I'd still fail. I'd be like, woo, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you first got out there, now this is the one thing when you first got out there, did y'all expect the worst of the worst when it came, as far as taking off in sand, hovering over sand or any of that, the desert?
Yeah. So we had the fortunate opportunity in Germany to kind of practice that a little bit, but in a different manner. We didn't get to the desert until December 30th of 1990. So we stayed in Europe and trained up for a good 6 months. From the time I got there was 6 months, but I mean, from the time of notification, roughly 4 months. But we got to fly in snow. So you get the same brownout effects, you get the whiteout effects with the snow. So when you're landing to a dusty area or a snow covered area, it all blows up, and it becomes hard to see. And you got to learn real quick how to train yourself to look down and find that ground reference so you can put the aircraft on the ground or into the FARP, and where the forward arming refueling point, where you got these young guys sitting on ammo stacks and on a fuel hose getting ready to load you up. And you come in and they're sitting right there. I mean, they're literally 5-6 yards away from you when you land. So it is very, very, very intense. A very intense part of the flight is knowing you're landing close to your guys, so close to your guys. The guys are going to rearm you and refuel you that any major mistakes, and it could go bad really fast. So you had to stay on top of the ball there. But the dust, it was a different dynamic with the dust. It was like talcum powder in some areas. So it was dust. I'm talking, it took a long time for that dust to calm down after you landed. And the engines would suck that dust in, and you'd get the turbine engines to start wearing on it. Or the dust would wear on the turbine blades in that engine. The rotor blades, they took in, I can't remember if it came as a tape, kind of like Gorilla Tape, but it's clear, or if they painted, I think they painted it on our blades, this real thick, heavy, like a glue on the leading edge of our rotor blades, on our main rotor blades and our tail rotor blades, to prevent that erosion from that sand, from operating in the sand so much. And it's kind of funny because what would happen is if you're flying along, you could hear this whooshing noise, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So a piece of that tape stuff would start peeling off, and the wind would grab it as the blades are turning. It'd get bigger and bigger and louder and louder and louder until it ripped it right off the blade. Now that blade's heavier than the others, so it's got a little bit of a dynamic balance issue going on. So
God, see, to me, I think that's just absolutely crazy. And I want to be able to see if you can hear Wade's audio now.
yes,
Can you hear me now, Todd?
no, I got no audio from
Okay.
Wade still.
All right. And so if he has a question, he can just say it. I'll repeat it and everything, because
Yep.
I mean, this is right up his alley, you know, flying and having fun up in the air, which I don't know why anybody wants to get in a perfectly, I'm sorry. I guess Apache would be a perfectly good aircraft for the Army, right? Back then?
Yeah, absolutely is the number one.
There you go.
Yeah, the number
Well,
one aircraft to fly.
And nobody can dispute that at all right now, because they haven't come on and even said their aircraft was better. But now, so when you're out there and y'all are getting ready to start your missions and stuff, I mean, how'd y'all fly at night? You know, how did y'all navigate?
So the funny thing is, the navigation, we had what was called Doppler navigation. And Doppler navigation is only as good as the guy is that programmed it. So if you got it wrong, it was wrong. So basically, we had an Air Force FAC, forward air controller, that was assigned to our battalion. He would drive around with our ground guys and meet us at the forward arming refueling points. And he would drop a note in the front seat of an Apache, and it was the 8-digit grid of where you were located at that point in time, because he had the only GPS in the battalion, and that GPS had to be carried in the back of a Humvee because it was pretty hefty. It took quite a bit to get this GPS back then to work. So we would program our lat long, or our 8-digit grid into the Doppler, and then we would fly off of that. Now, if you can imagine desert, a lot of flat, not a lot of terrain, time, distance, heading, match up with the Doppler, make sure you're headed the right direction, and going that way, you would hit a point, and hopefully there was something in the desert, let's say a road with a fuel line next to it, or an oil line next to it, and your timing with your distance and the heading that you've got marked should match up about the time you cross that road. And if that happens, hopefully your Doppler is giving you the same information, so that you're checking yourself off the Doppler, off time, distance, heading, off a space or a piece of space in the middle of nowhere, which who knows if the sand's blown over the road, if it's even going to be there when you get there. So a lot of it was blind trust.
That's incredible. And then, but you also use night vision, correct?
Yes. So at night, we use some forward-looking infrared, FLIR in the Apache. Okay. Night vision goggles, they didn't add them to the Apache until later. So we flew strictly off FLIR. And it was first generation FLIR. And when I say first generation, as you can imagine, the first generation of everything is pretty limited on its capabilities. So we had what we called a flying FLIR, or a flying picture, we called it. The backseater usually tuned his FLIR up as crisp and as clear as possible, so you could see as much detail. You could tell when you're getting close to the ground, and we had symbology that we could see on the actual FLIR itself. which that set up over one eye, just on a little piece of glass. It got projected. So you're flying off one eye, and the other eye is looking at instrumentation inside the aircraft. So that being said, the gunner, he set his FLIR up to what we called targeting FLIR, or white hot, cold hot, and we set it up so that the gain and the contrast would make targets stand out immensely and real fast. You could find them really quick. But when you do that, you don't have the clarity of everything else around you. So you're looking at hot spots as opposed to looking at something that has a lot better definition that the backseater who's flying the aircraft needs to see. So there's a lot of we use the aircraft to the best of its capability. It was the A model Apache. And I'm gonna give it another good hoot here, but the A model Apache was the most powerful helicopter in the inventory for weight to ratio outside the Chinook. But the new Apaches are loaded down, they're heavy, and they're not nearly as maneuverable as they were when the A model came out. So it was a great aircraft to fly to start out in, and you learned how to use what systems you had.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so when so y'all are out there, y'all are flying, y'all are doing, your days, your nights and everything. When the ground war took off, let's talk about that.
Yes. So we sat out in the desert. We got word that the air war kicked off, and it's not like nowadays, man. We were out in the middle of nowhere. Unless someone came to you and said, "Hey, guess what? The war started." You had no clue. There was no. We would get the BBC once in a while. We could tune in to the British broadcast and hear what they were saying. But it was pretty limited. I mean, the operational security, it was a need to know basis. You're an heavy armor division out in the middle of the desert waiting across the border. That air campaign really wasn't a need to know basis at that point in time. Then we start catching rumors, and then we start asking questions. Is it, and they did tell us when it kicked off, because the Scud missiles started falling a lot faster at that point in time. But so we would so basically when the ground wars kicked off, being the 3rd Armor Division, which was in the 7th Corps, we crossed the border going into Iraq, and 3rd Armor at the time was the largest division assembled. We had 23,000 troops in that division.
Damn.
And yeah, it was big. The log trains, the supply train that followed us, the combat force was relatively minute compared to the log chain that had to keep us running. And without those guys, we'd be nothing out there. So everybody back all the way to the back of the line when we crossed. And it's kind of funny because we were flying up to the border, and here's our tankers, they're lined up and they're moving out. And we're doing what's called a screen mission on the flank of 7th Corps. So, and 7th Corps has got 3 divisions in it. So we're 23,000. You got 2 more divisions that are probably 18,000. We're talking massive amounts of armor, massive amounts of trucks and support vehicles. And we've got 18 Apaches that are assigned to protect that division movement. Ours, 2nd ACR, they were in the lead element, I believe it was. And we had the right flank next to the 1st British Infantry Division was between us. So we were covering our right flank as we moved up into the hook maneuver into Kuwait, and we went into the Ticonderoga Republican Guard Division. They were our main target, and it took let's see, the Battle of 7-3 Easting was the biggest fight, the last armor fight ever to happen, they say. And that was it. Everything nowadays is not armor on armor the way it was back then. And we moved as a division. Nowadays they're moving as a brigade. and it's all mixed up. It's got a few tanks and a bunch of Bradley fighting vehicles for the infantry. But back then in 91, it was like Patton and Rommel in the desert. That's how many vehicles are being moved.
Wow.
And unfortunately, the Iraqis didn't quite understand tactics like we did.
Well, heck, I was like an Iraqi. I didn't understand it either. I mean, if you think about it, I was just told what to do. You know.
Yeah. So the U.S. Army, the coalition forces. Let's just say that, because I don't want to. Everybody was involved. But we took a play right out of Rommel's playbook, Blitzkrieg, and that's what it was. We hit them hard from the air, and we ran through them as fast as we could, and it worked.
Yeah. You are absolutely correct. I mean, like we didn't get very much information about the war unless we heard on radio like you did.
Yeah.
But what I think was funny was I remember when they kicked it off, and I mean, you start seeing airplanes take off. The one thing I found fascinating about the whole thing was no missiles, like y'all were able to stay out of the way of the missiles. What the Navy was sending out, the Army was, all that was coordinated. And the whole time I kept saying, how the hell them Army and Marine guys going to stay out of the way of all these missiles being shot? Because there was a crap load shot that night. It was just crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was the combined arms effort and the combined arms planning is above you can't compare it to anything the way we did it. There's they do it now. They're doing it really good now. Don't get me wrong, they do. But if you look at the technology we used to do it back in 91, we didn't have all this GPS stuff. We didn't have all the, guess what? There were no drones. There was drones. They would go take a picture of the battlefield. They'd fly back, develop the film, and bring it to us.
Well, see, and that's what's crazy is, Wade made a great statement. And I got to give him props on this. And this is very hard for me to do, give him props. But no, Wade said that it was the biggest test of all brand new equipment out there.
Yep.
And what'd you call Wade?
Yeah, just a big experimental field. Everything new that we had, we were testing.
Yeah, everything brand new that we had. It was almost like the big boys got to play with the toys.
Yeah, the Abrams was brand new. The Apache was brand new. The Bradley was brand new. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, I can't believe I'm even gonna let this be said tonight, but we were talking the other night, all three of us, and you made a comment about how much the Army had compared to everybody else. Kind of explain how you said that to me, in which I looked it up and you were correct.
So the Army is such a large force. And let's go with 1990 level Army stuff, okay? The amount of people in the Army is massive compared to the other branches. The Marine Corps is just small compared to us. The Air Force is relatively small. The Navy probably is the closest in personnel-wise in size. However, the Army has more aircraft than all other services combined together. And if you think about it, think about all those infantry guys we got to transport by helicopter. All the cargo we got to move by air, by helicopter. Because the C-130s, they would do airdrops to us, the Air Force guys in C-130. But if you wanted your MREs to survive that airdrop, you usually had to have it come in on a Chinook, because those pallets hit hard in the desert and it usually exploded. The top two or the bottom two rows of MREs were no good to use. They were all blown out. Oh yeah.
Did y'all ever see that?
Oh yeah.
Wait, you saw it too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you see that. Or if they're bringing them in and the line actually just breaks and they drop. An accident, but they drape and just boom.
Oh my gosh, man! No, man, there's no way. And so if you really think about, I mean, I had 3 square meals a day, which I apologize
Of
about
course
that.
you
You know, and
We made
I
our
mean,
choice. We made our choice.
yeah, y'all made your choice, but it was really funny because I was telling Wade this one day. I was like, talking about the MREs and stuff is when we got to open up our, we were getting new flotation boats, So if we were to sink, the boats would sink down and they were supposed to pop back up. They go a certain depth that all of our, boats, rafts, I guess you would say. Well, some fell, some didn't come back up. Only a couple of them came back up. So I was really glad we never got sunk because I'd be swimming with snakes. I was like, but when they come up, they had MREs back from Vietnam. We ate them things and we thought we were in hog heaven. We were like, man, I don't know what these army guys are complaining about. And so, is there anything that you really remember about Desert Storm that just sticks with you that you absolutely loved it?
Um, I was one of the things. This is one thing that I'll remember for the rest of my life. We were tasked, and this is prior to the ground war to start. We were set up to go after an artillery unit cross flot. So we're going to cross the border and go hit an artillery unit. We didn't know we wwere second up. The B-52s had priority on the target. If they missed, we were going to go. So imagine this: it's early evening, the sun's still kind of up. It just went down, but it's still light out everywhere. And you got 24 Apaches. We were plussed up. We had an extra company with us. The standard battalion was 18, but they added 6. If you can imagine this, here we are. We're headed north to the border to a rearm refuel point to get extra fuel. And on the way up, we're passing over all of our division tanks, all of our M1s, all of our Bradleys. Okay. And I say this in terms, I say these kids, most of them are probably older than me because I was only 22 when I was in Desert Storm. They're all standing on top of their tanks in the pictures that were being taken, the flash camera. We're at 20 feet off the deck, and we're going in between tanks and in between their antennas, slalom like skiers, and we're headed north. They know where we're going. And it gives me chills right now just to think about watching all those guys take pictures of us. And when I realized that, I got to thinking, this kid just took a picture of an Apache. He has no clue who's in it, but he does know one thing: is they're going after the bad guys, and they're going tonight. And that I can only I picture myself being in that tank and taking a picture of that aircraft. And I clear as a day, I can see these tanks in front of me. And I can see all the flash bulbs going off, heading up there. That'll stay with me forever.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will say this: like, my mom is watching the Last Ship because it just came out on Netflix,
Yeah,
and everything. I watched that. And besides the guys holding machine guns running around, we didn't have that on our ship. We had a guy with a shotgun, but
yeah,
felt real safe. But
yeah,
the one thing I can say is when you're watching that, it brought back Desert Storm. It brought back being on the bridge, just everybody, the heckness, I guess you would say, of everybody running around doing stuff, trying to figure out, the chaos when it first started. That's exactly what it reminded me of. It's like, and then all the meetings. And so that's what's really cool is that everybody plays a part.
yes,
Everybody has I didn't want to go in the Army. I didn't want to get shot at. But I really have a lot of respect for the Army and the Marine guys and the Air Force guys because I didn't know really what y'all did until I started talking. I mean, like Wade would tell me stories. I'm just like, yeah, I know. No. Absolutely not. That's like we had Ron Brown on who jumped in Panama. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. But them guys, I commend the Army. I really do, and I commend the Marines. Y'all had it a lot worse than what we did, but man, y'all worked at, and the camaraderie of people that you meet in the military is just unbelievable back then.
Yeah.
Do you talk to any of the, you know, older
Oh
guys? I
man,
can't believe I just said that.
let me tell you. Let me tell you right now. We've got a group of us right now that um, we were all together in Desert Storm. We were in Alpha Company 2nd of 227th. There's my plug for the company I was in. We 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 get together twice, maybe 3 times a year. At
Oh,
least 4 of us do, and more. You know, beyond that, uh, we've done 2 battalion reunions where we've had upwards of 75 show up. So it's yeah, and you know what? It's like yesterday. It's like no time has passed between us. You know, everybody remembers who screwed up. You know, the day before we left. You know, we'll remind them of it, type kind of thing, and just ribbing each other and getting everything. It just it's a it's a family. I'll tell you that right now. And the guys, I got a April 3rd. I lost my backseater to cancer, and one of the promises I made myself is that I will not let our memories. I'm not talking about me personally. I'm talking all of us together as a collective unit. I will not let our memories go away without having it somewhere written down so all of our kids can reference it. Because I look back at my grandfather. He was a World War II veteran. When he died, there were so many questions I had at that point in time, and I
boy.
couldn't get them. I could not get them answered anymore, and I screwed up. You know, so
Well, aren't
by
you
not
writing a
asking.
book? Aren't you writing a book?
Yeah, I am. Yes, that's kind of
Hey,
my uh, that book. I'm writing that for my kids, and I want them to understand who I was, and and we all know, all of us know this. When we're young, we got our own priorities. You know, that old man in the corner with all
mhm.
the stories is not my priority right now. And that's unfortunately, it's just the way it happens. It's not nothing bad. I was that kid at one time. And I knew what I was going to do when I went to the Army. But I wish I would have learned so much more. So my book is it'll be released in December. It's about my it's this discussion we have right here. It's my travels and how I got to where I was. I'm just a Midwestern kid that grew up on a small family farm, and my dad worked in General Motors. My mom worked at restaurants. She cleaned, hotels. Um, I'm nobody special, man. I was just that young kid that circumstances lined up, and here I'm sitting here today telling you guys about it.
Well, I believe everybody's special. I truly do. I
Absolutely.
believe,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
and I mean, I know I'm Wade's best friend. I don't care what he says. I know.
We all got to have one.
And
Kevin,
go ahead, Wade.
I
Go
don't know
ahead.
if you can hear me yet, but can you tell him to explain what he does now for a living?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So while you're writing the book, but why don't you explain to everybody exactly what you do now for a living? Because this, I think everybody needs to understand. He didn't just stop. So let's get into
So,
this.
I'm currently flying medevac helicopter, an EMS of a Bell 407 GX GXI now, which is coming in 2 weeks. So I service a small community in Oklahoma. We fly about 60 flights a month of patient transport, either from a hospital or from a scene off a road, day, night, and 24/7, 365. We're open. Uh, I've been flying EMS helicopters now for about 10 years. Actually, September 12th will be my 10-year anniversary of doing it, and it's a calling. I say it's a calling because I don't consider myself special. Um, I would hope if it was my family on the road that had an accident, the crews around them that are going to respond would respond the same way I respond for their families.
Oh
So
yeah, I agree.
I'm doing it as if it's going to be my family member, and
Well,
that's the way I look at it.
I,
I don't think I'm doing anything special. I have a job. I was fortunate enough to be trained by the Army to fly a helicopter, which it was a long road, and that's a chapter in my book, The Long Road In. But it has heightened my career. I kind of tied it all together from the beginning to the end now. And my crews always joke about me. I'm sunsetting now because I'm getting up there. It's like I
uh,
joke with them. I said, if I can wake up at 3 a.m, put goggles on my helmet, and still hover, I'm not sunsetting.
oh yeah, no, not at all. But I know each and every one of y'all out there who listen to the program, y'all have to really, really understand. If you've never seen these guys land, they're absolutely nuts. Because I have seen y'all land where power lines, everything, it's just like, no, they're not gonna land here. And then all of a sudden they're like, and y'all are just crazy. Y'all
Uh,
are.
we use a system of checks and balances to get into stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we say we're doing it as safe as possible. The environment is
Yeah.
very dangerous.
Yeah.
So we try to alleviate all the bad stuff.
I seen them guys land on a not private road, but in a subdivision, houses all the way around, power lines everywhere, and these guys just land right there. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
how the hell did he do that? I mean, gee, y'all are incredible for what y'all do. I believe that 100%. That is a admirable job
I
that you
appreciate
have.
that. I do appreciate that. I don't think of it that way because I've got a job to do, and just so happens people need help out there, and I'm going to do that job as long as I can, and uh, do it by the steps, by the book, as safe as possible. Bring my crews home. Part of that thing is you guys don't see that. I mean, you see us land in what you consider a crazy environment. And it's a high risk environment for sure, especially at night, 3 a.m. or whenever it is. You add the fact that it's dark out, you got goggles on your helmet. The goggles weigh 4.5 pounds, and that's strapped on your head now. So now you got, your neck strain going on. But we got to deal with the weather calls where
Oh
there's a lot of
yeah.
calls we don't take because we don't risk 3 for 1.
Right.
And my goal as the pilot in that aircraft on board that bird is to make sure my crew make it home safely. The crew's job is to make sure that patient makes it to the hospital alive. So my customers are the crew's customer is the patient, is the way we look at it. That's how we train our pilots. So we try not to get into the I got to save a life, because that's not what we do as pilots. What we do as pilots is keep our crew safe, and that's what we do. Now it takes everybody. It takes the whole community. And I got to throw this out here. We haven't mentioned it. The ground crews, and I'm talking about from the Army to my mechanics I deal with right now. Those mechanics that were working on those helicopters, when we come back and land long enough, they could do a service on them, grease up the swash plate, check bearings, all that kind of stuff. Those guys, they do a job that no one ever sees. No one ever appreciates.
I agree.
And I'll tell you what, without those guys, man, we're nothing. We're nothing as an operator, as a helicopter pilot or a crew in the back. We're just a ground truck at that point in time. And nothing bad against ground truck guys, but we can't do it without those mechanics, without those service guys that work on those birds. And I got 2 of the best mechanics I'll put them in a fight against anybody.
No, I see. I think that's fantastic.
Yes.
I know we're coming into the program, but I just put up a link, okay,
Yeah.
that everybody can see. I just put it up, and it is about the Desert Shield and Desert Storm War Memorial. I am asking each and every veteran's family, to go onto this link. And if you watch the show later, the link isn't up. You'll be able to find it on our page, and I will make sure it's up there. It's going to be at the top. You know, donate. We need to get this done, going over the finish line. And I believe each and every one of us have a responsibility. This is just my belief. And I even saw a comment today that a guy said, I served my war. I don't think I have to pay for it. Well, I want to tell you something. This is what I'm going to tell you. And I would love to say his name, but I'm not going to. No. We have fallen soldiers and sailors out there. We have Gold Star families. This should mean everything to all of us. And that's the best way I could put it, because this is about the ones who have fallen. This is our war. This is our memorial that people will be able to go up there and see it. So I am asking you, please donate to this. You can donate between, I know you can go onto the page, you can donate, you know, you can do $5 to 10. It doesn't matter. One time, it'd be gratefully appreciated. And I hope each and every one of us would donate to it. If you have any questions about it, you can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of C. Freeman, you know, Wade, Todd. Todd knows a whole lot about it. And
Yep, absolutely.
And I know Todd's going to be out there. We're going to meet him face to face. Me and Wade's going to meet face to face for the first time out there.
Wade and I.
Wade and I. Sorry, Todd will say, yeah, Wade and I. Sorry, I should have never told that Fort Dix joke, huh? I've been waiting for that all day, man. I'm sorry. I've been waiting for it all day and everything. But we're now going to go into the after show. We're going to have a lot more fun. I got a lot more questions. And I mean, it's just a good way to support the show, you know, keep this program going, because this is what this is about. Everybody getting together, telling their stories, and letting the world know what our war was like. Even though it was a 100-hour war, it's our war. And that's important to each and every one of us. And so with that being said, if you want to contact me, y'all can contact me at Kevin Simon at gold4sideeffects.com, Kevin Simon at gold4sideeffects.com. Y'all can get a hold of Wade. Y'all know how to get a hold of Wade, Messenger, and he answers probably faster than what I do sometimes. He'll call me up, be like, hey, blah, 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 you know, all kinds of stuff. And Wade is a great partner on this show. I said something nice.
Damn.
Wade and I are a team. But we're now going to go into the after show. I appreciate each and every one of y'all, you know, for coming on. And next week we're going to have another special guest. And next week, Todd, I'll talk a little bit more in the after show. But this gentleman, he helps veterans, and he is incredible young man. And so I'm looking very forward to next week, just like I was this week. I was excited to have you on. I look forward for your book. As soon as your book comes out, we will let everybody know.
I appreciate that. Yep.
And hopefully we can make it a bestseller. I would write a book, but I can't even pronounce words right. Ask Wade. Trust me. All right. We will see y'all next week. We'll see other people on after show. Y'all have a great night. Thank you.